of a data set. Here they tell us the number of cars of various colors in a parking lot with 5 levels is summarized by the table below. Assume this table represents the entire population of cars at this dealer. Use the table to answer the question. And the question is, what is the variance of blue cars across the 5 levels? So they want us to focus in on just blue cars. So let's take a look at that data. So here's my blue cars on each of the 5 levels. So I'm trying to find the variance of the numbers 9, 8, 10, 7, and 13. So I need to begin by entering this data into a list, L1. So I've got my calculator on. I'm going to press Stat. I'm going to choose One, Edit. Now I actually have some data in this list already, but I don't need it anymore. If I want to clear it quickly, all I have to do is arrow up until I highlight. Oops, went too many times. Sorry, keep hitting it too many times. Okay, arrow up until I hit the L1, and then I press clear, and then here's the important part, I have to press enter, and that totally clears that list. Now I can enter in my data values. So I have 9, 8, 10, 7, and 13. 9, 8, 10, 7, and 13. Now I'm ready to find the variance, and they want us to use the one VarStats function. So I'm going to press Stat, I'm going to arrow over to Calc, and the very first one is one VarStats. So I'm going to press Enter. And it's going to ask me, what list do I want to find one VarStats on? Well, it already says L1, but if it didn't, I would press second and 1 to make it say L1, then press Enter. I don't have a frequency list, so I can skip that one. And now I want to press Calculate. All right, it's found my standard deviation. SX here is the sample standard deviation. If this represented just a sample of the cars in the population, then I would use sample standard deviation. If this here represents the entire population, which if we're saying the entire population of blue cars, we can say that it does, then I would use sigma x. Sigma is for population standard deviation. And the difference between these two is that for the population standard deviation, I divide by n minus 1, and for the sample standard deviation, I divide by n. Okay, so I was told to assume this was the entire population, so this would be the entire population of blue cars. And if I'm looking for the variance of blue cars, I would use here, I'd have sigma x is my standard deviation. So let's write that down. Sigma x equals 2.0591. That's my population standard deviation. But I was asked to find variance. So here's the quick way to find variance from this information. I want to press on bars. Then I see that number 5 is statistics. So choose number 5. And then if I arrow down, you see here, my sigma is number 4. I want to take standard deviation and square it to get variance. So rather than having to type in all those decimals on my home screen, all I do is come over here and choose 4. That takes me back to my home screen. And now I square that. When I square it, I get 4.24. So my variance, which is sigma squared, is equal to 4.24. This is my population variance. And that's really quickly how you find it. If it had been my sample standard deviation that I wanted to square, I would just go to VARS, number 5 statistics, and then I would choose number 3 for sample standard deviation and then square it. Press enter, and then I get 5.3. And that's all there is to finding variance using one VarStats. Until next time.